Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Women Speaking. As Uganda approaches the 2026 elections, the electoral process has become a key focus of conversation. From maintaining an accurate voter register to ensuring that polling stations are well placed and well manned, the eye has been on the Electoral Commission and all the agents and all its surrounding agents to ensure that the process is credible, free and fair. Today we shall be discussing the topic of why women should take an interest in the election, why they should participate in the election at every process level, and why and how they would go about doing it. With me today, I have a very credible panel to discuss this pertinent conversation, and I shall introduce them from my extreme left coming in. So, a very special lady, she's back in the studio this year. Naima, very grateful to have you. Miss Naima Isa, she is a feminist lawyer. Naima, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I think this is my first show this year. So Happy New Year to everyone, because you've not seen me since then. And I'm honored to be back and discuss this interesting issue that we have at hand.
Yeah, we're very honored to have you return to the show. And right next to me, it has become a show regular. At this point, we shall just have a seat designated for her. Miss Nancy Ayot Caroline. Nancy, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will delve straight into the topic of discussion. Like I said earlier, 2026 is our election year as a country, but I think what plays a very interesting role, or the most pertinent role, is the process that builds up to the election. So 2025 is going to be a very interesting year for us as a country as we navigate this process. So just getting straight into it, July last year, 2024, I'm Nancy, I'm starting with you. July last year, 2024, the Electoral Commission rolled out the roadmap.
Yes.
It has been, from then on till now, we have been going through multiple steps in this process. I would just like you to give us a breakdown of what this roadmap looks like as we build up to the election.
Thank you so much. The electoral process has a series of steps and activities involved in the selection of political leaders or representation through voting. Now, in the electoral process, we have the first step, which is the releasing of the electoral roadmap that was done last year in July. Now, in the electoral roadmap, we have several activities. First, the constituencies are demarcated. Then there is a process of complaints around demarcation of the constituencies, which I don't know how many people know about, but people can come up and complain and be like, this is not quite it. And it also has the allocation of polling stations, and now coming from that time, since last year, there was supposed to be an awareness to the process, and the only reason why some of us were really aware of that is because we were affiliated with some people who are in the process, and because we understood the political party system and how they relate with this. But also conferences were called, and one of them was the youth conference to talk about the electoral process, and it came about 4 months after the electoral roadmap had been released. That's when, and people were like, when was this released?
Yeah, I'm also looking at you like, okay. so I didn't know about this.
So it happened, and then the people were like, so they're telling us the electoral roadmap was released, and we are looking at activity 5.
Now from 1, now we're in 5.
Yes, right now we are looking at checking with the voter registration. Yes, voter registering and allocation of polling stations, changing if you wish to change your polling station. Maybe you're registered in Chirai because it's your residence, but you want to go back to your hometown, so you change like that. But also on that we have the by April this year. Yes, April this year, the voter registers will be displayed in our different polling stations. Then you can check to see if
So how long is this voter register editing, like for the lack of a better word? Because I know people are supposed to go and check and everything, and it's supposed to be done online. So is there a physical?
Oh, there is an online link where you can check. You go to the Electoral Commission page.
So those who have no smartphones?
Yes, those who have the smartphones, you can check digitally.
And those who don't?
Those who don't, you have to walk to your polling station or to your towns where the Electoral Commission agents are stationed, registering and checking. But I know the process is ending sometime in Feb. So
is that enough time for everyone to do? I don't think it is.
Hardly considering the information gap.
Yes.
Hardly enough time. But then after that, we start looking at candidate nominations, campaigning, voting, ballot processing, results announcement, then inaugurations and swearing in.
So what about new voters? How do they, because is there a whole other process for new voters? Because I know a number of people in my age group, this would be the first time would be voting.
Well, when you have your national ID, your national ID allocates you a polling station within the village you belong. For example, my national ID has my village as Chaliwajala B. So there in Chaliwajala, I know that there are 2 polling stations within Chaliwajala. There is one at the Omea Mosque, Omea Primary School, that is already. Then there is one at the Komboni Sisters, the Komboni Missionary designation. Then you have to go to both polling stations
to verify where your name lies. Usually they give you a small paper. Oh, in the last elections they gave us a small paper where the one you will use on your voting day to show that this is me, this is my polling station, and I'm here to vote.
So I would have to do this before Feb?
Yes.
Yes.
So I would have to go to the polling stations in my area before Feb.
I believe before the 2nd week of Feb.
Before the 2nd week.
That is awesome.
Yes.
So we have a week to go. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
I hope people know this because
don't quote me on it.
My
but
mom
I believe it's ending sometime
doesn't know that there's even verification of voter registers.
There is.
That's another question I'd like to ask. We've spoken about the electoral process, the roadmap, and all. This should be something that is at the fingertips of the citizen. We should be, information regarding this process should be shoved down our throats, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
But I think we hear it through the news or through conversations like this more than we do. Has the Electoral Commission have they fulfilled their mandate in regards to their awareness of the populace on the entire process?
I do not want to say they have not.
You don't work with Electoral Commission, so you don't know.
Yes. I don't work with them, so I cannot say that they have not. But I know
from the angle of an average citizen.
From the angle of an average citizen, I know I stumbled into the information, and had I not stumbled into that information, I probably wouldn't even be in the studio today. So it's something that I stumbled upon, and it's a lot of things that come from hearsay. You know these things when you hear it in a news wrap. In other news, the Electoral Commission in the press statement has released. Sometimes it comes in the press wrap, like other news. It's not the first,
like the main
or
news,
the second, or the third, or maybe it's the fourth. By that time, a lot of people
concentration level is 0.
It's so low, but
we're hanging on by a thread.
Yes,
that is really interesting.
Very interesting. Naima, how do you believe that this quote-unquote lack of awareness of the general public is going to affect, I would say, since this conversation is focused centrally on women's participation in the general election process?
Okay, so speaking from the fact that my mom didn't know that verification is going on and she stays in Kampala, so it speaks a lot to how many people a country know about the verification process. It also goes to the fact that most women are not tech savvy. They do not have these gadgets. For example, for the online registration, you'll find that most women who are spending most of their days...
The online is verification, really, not registration per se.
Whether it's verification. So a woman who's up country who has no smartphone and spends the whole day in the farms, tending to the farms, catering to what her children will eat or have the next meal on, has no time to listen to radio. How does this woman get this information that they need to either change their voting station? Because most women, I could have registered from Nakapit, that is my birth area, but now I'm married to a man in Masindi. How do I get to know this information that if I need to change my voting, station, I have to go and do this? So find that 80% of women might not be knowing what is going on with verification, or voter registration, that this is ongoing and for them to do it. And them not knowing this, that means, like we've had, her submit, the process is ending very soon in February. So will all the women in this country have received this information by then? And if they receive it by then, would they have had the time to go and do the verification and ensure that their names are on the register? So if this is not done, then that is going to cut off women from participating in the voting process. If you're not registered, if you're not a verified, registered citizen of this country, eligible enough to vote, then come the voting day, you will be left out. You will not have the opportunity to go and vote. So the fact that women are not receiving this information because of so many factors that is limiting them from doing it, that means that most of them are going to be left out in verifying their names and registering themselves to be able to participate in the election process. And so this means what? That women's voices are not going to be heard. Their choices are not going to be respected during that voting process. So to me, that is the biggest issue I'm seeing. An electoral commission has to ensure that information is received. In my village, which is Kawempe. Yeah, that is really funny.
Wow.
We do have these announcements. Okay, in Kampala, I've been in a village, Laywer, sometime, and I saw these announcements. So there's a huge trucks with public address system and people announcing the bivolos. Can electoral commission adopt that and pass tracks announcing this information to the different places? I know deep down in villages there are these people who drum. They call the kagoma. I call them kagoma men who do. The LC says, can we get people with drums funded by electoral commission going in the deepest corners of the villages, letting people know, walking through their farms, because women spend most of their times in the farm from sunset to sunrise. So from sunset to sunrise is evening, right?
Yeah.
No, sunrise is morning.
Sunrise
Sunrise to sunset, yeah. So from sunrise to sunset, people are in their farms, tending to their farms. So can they go through the farms? Let women know that yes, you might be in your farm, but this is something that is important. It also goes back to the information of how many Ugandans own national IDs and are verified voters. So you'll find that most women, simply because they're supposed to tend to the children and attend to the chores in the home, do not see the importance of owning a national ID. That means they're limiting themselves from having their voices and choices heard during election period. So for me, it's really absurd, and I think Electoral Commission needs to do better in what is it called? The English word has disappeared. They do better in ensuring that information reaches the people on ground, deep down in the villages, on knowing what is happening right now. You coming to the news, you sending links might not be as effective as having the village messengers saying this information to people in the languages they understand. Because I'm very sure Electoral Commission is not sending this information in Karamajong or Atesot or the very many languages that we speak in this country. They're using probably English, Luganda, and Kiswahili, and not everyone is fluent in that language.
Yeah.
So they need to localize the information so that people deep down in the villages, especially women who are at a disadvantage on receiving information, are informed on what is going on. I so submit.
Okay, it's very interesting that you point out that this process is essentially disenfranchising women and infringing upon our right to actually be
Yes.
participating citizens. So today we are still discussing the topic of the upcoming 2026 elections, in particular focusing on the voter register process and how far we've come in regards to the electoral roadmap. So we have been joined by another panelist, Ms. Faridah Lule. Faridah is the Executive Director, Ushahidi Foundation Uganda. Good afternoon, Faridah, and welcome to the show.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies. And you're also welcome. I'm glad that you're discussing the most critical topic of this year and next year.
Yeah, actually the most critical topic, you've rightly put it. So I would like to, we've been of course discussing the voter register process, but I'd like to bring you to the start right now because I know you are on ground in regards to this process. If I am a young lady and I would like to initiate the process of becoming a voter for the first time, what is what is the process I would like to follow if I am in Kampala, if I am in Karamoja, from those different standpoints. And then what is the timeline I am basing on, because I know this is the work you're doing from day to day.
Okay. Thank you, Danita. Sorry. And thank you, viewers, for being consistent to watch our show. You actually deserve a credit. First of all, I would like to inform our viewers that we have a total number of voters right now. We have 18,103,603. That is as we roll out to register more voters or to have more voters registered. That's the number that we have. So we according to Electoral Commission, they anticipate to have more than 5 million to add on the 18. So they anticipate that by the time we go for polls, we will be 24, 25 million voters. As a new voter, what do you need to, what are the requirements for you as a lady in all the other parts of the country? One, you have to be a citizen. You have to be a citizen, that is number one. Two, you have to be 18 plus. If you are below 18, you cannot cast a vote, you cannot participate in this process of voting. You can maybe follow and participate in other activities, but the actual voting, you cannot vote if you're not 18. So if you're a new voter, you need to go to your nearest parish in your locality. You'll find the update officers who are actually taking information from the new voters, and you register yourself. What do you need to go with? You only need to go with a photocopy of your parent or guardian, and then they will take your information about yourself, and then that is it.
A photocopy of the national ID of my parent or guardian?
Yes, because you might have a you might have a national ID. Some do not have. I'm talking to those that do not have, those that have not registered at all for NIRA, because once you cannot transit to the voters register before you become a citizen. And who does the citizens registration? It is NIRA. So first of all, you have to make sure that you have all the details that require you to be a citizen.
In that case, it's a national ID?
Yes, in that case, it is a national ID. So if you have a national ID, just go to the update officer and inform, and you give in your ID. Then you choose a polling station where you want to vote from. So the Electoral Commission officer will be able to take that information, and then at the end of the day, you will be able to vote.
So if I do not have a national ID, but I'm 18 years old, I was born in Uganda and everything, that's when I'll go with my
yes,
parents?
That's when you go with a photocopy of your parents' ID. Or
both parents or one parent?
No, one parent. If you do not have a parent, you can go with a guardian. But there is also a challenge with that, because some people, their guardians are in the village, and they cannot access photocopying machines. And some maybe took their IDs to money lenders. Some have also given their IDs to the banks. Some, like most people, do not have their IDs. Those who do not, especially, they have engaged themselves in so many other activities. So maybe those people who cannot access either of their guardian or parent cannot actually register to vote. Because yes, you cannot register to vote because you are not. Those are the requirements.
There is no proof of citizenship.
So for you, maybe, and also another strategy, that if you have to go to NIRA to register, you're supposed to get a letter from the LC to confirm that you're a real citizen of that area. So that letter, you go with it to the DISO.
A lot of information.
So when you go to DISO, that is when the DISO will stamp on that letter. So you go back to NIRA, because NIRA does not prove citizens from that level. You require a letter from the LC chairperson of your area, and then from your LC you go to DISO. From DISO, when you get those two stamps, then you go back to NIRA.
That is for getting a national
That is for getting a national ID. So after getting that details into the system, that is when you can proceed to another level of being a voter.
It's very interesting. You're saying we went through this whole process of getting our national IDs, and somehow the Election Commission and NIRA hasn't partnered to have that information naturally transited?
No.
So
what they do, yes, you have to go out and start from the start. You start with NIRA. But right now, Electoral Commission is doing the whole process. So meaning that the requirements that the NIRA requires you to register as a citizen. You have to provide them to Electoral Commission to take all that information before you actually transit to be a voter.
So essentially, if I'm to do this, I would require my national ID and a letter.
No, if you are a new voter, completely a new, yes, and you do not have a national ID, because there is no way they will give you a national ID if you are not 18. You have to turn 18, that is when they will give you a national ID. But there are learners who registered with NIRA when they are not 18 years. They were around 15. I think that program was in most of the schools. Yes. So those people, right now, they have turned 18. Yeah. So those guys they are not supposed to go back to NIRA again for registration. They can just proceed to Electoral Commission. So when they proceed to Electoral Commission, they will only need a photocopy of their guardian and the NINI number. The NINI number. So that NINI number, you actually present it to the update officer, and then they will be able to register you as a voter. Then the update officer will ask you, where do you want to vote from? They will give you a number of polling stations in your locality, and then you choose.
Okay. So can this process be done online, or it must be physical?
No, it is physical. Yeah, the only process that can be done online is to check. For example, me, I've been a voter all through, so I can just go online and check whether my details are still there intact in the voters register. Do I still vote from the polling station that I chose? That is the only thing that you can use online.
Okay, so is there a deadline for all this?
Yes, there's a deadline, and it is ending on 10th February.
Ah, 10th February. Okay, that is very interesting. We're at a very interesting period. So I would like to ask you, so I just have 10 days essentially, 10 days give or take, to get myself into the system. I shall see if I make it.
But there's also a process of display exercise, whereby if you want to confirm that the details that you gave into the Electoral Commission are out, or they actually picked what you want, you can actually go during the display exercise, and that display exercise will come after the 10th of February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then, so we've been speaking of the electoral process and women's participation, but I'd like you to get into the nitty-gritties of it, into the details. When we say women participating in the electoral process from all angles, what exactly do we mean? In what manners can women participate in this process from right now until 2026, when we have the final results being released?
Thank you, dear. First of all, I would like to congratulate the women of Uganda, and because when I talk about the 18 million voters, 52% are women, then 48% are men. So meaning that most of the the women in Uganda are actually taking the biggest share in the voters register, and they have participated, meaning they have participated fully in registering themselves to actually take a vote. What does a woman need to do? One, first of all, registering to vote, checking your details, whether you have your details ready, they are intact, they have not tampered with them. And 3, they are supposed to actually actively present themselves, not only as voters to go and vote, but also as candidates. So you have to participate as leaders, because you know that when we have a woman at a given leadership position, you know that at least there is some development that will actually happen, even if it is at a local level. So we will be having elections. In fact, the first election is going to happen in June, and that is for special interest groups at committee, those village committee. So we are starting the elections not in 2026, but also in 2025. So in 2025, June, according to the roadmap, that is when we are going to have the first election. Those committees actually influence or actually produce leaders that are going to come up to the MP level. For example, the youth representative. The youth representative is not actually elected at that level. Those people who elect the youth representative come from the CIGs, the special interest groups at that level. Those committees are the ones who produce people who are going to actually vote. So meaning the election starts in June. The women in Uganda, your role is also very critical to ensure that there is peace in the community. These people who come around to actually bang your doors, you have to take note that these people, you register them, and then you take note, and then you inform the relevant authorities that this person wants to antagonize the peace in our community. or antagonize the election process. A woman down there, you're supposed to to campaign for your candidate. You're supposed also to go and solicit votes for your candidates. For example, looking around this person, we think this leader is going to make good of a village, or he's going to make some development. So the leader you believe in. For you, I don't want to say that maybe you go and vote this person and vote this person, but the person you think that you believe in, you are supposed to actually campaign for that person. You can campaign for that person. You can also mobilize voters to make sure that the person is actually into the office. A woman down there who wants to also to participate, you can sensitize your voters. You can sensitize voters. You might look for information and actually do voter education at your locality, because there are so many people who do not have this information that we have. But if you happen to have this information, go out and sensitize, do the voter education in your own means. That can also help the whole process.
Okay, thank you so much, Faridah. Naima, I'm going to bring you back into this conversation. We're transitioning into we'll be transitioning soon into the active campaign season.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing about the manifestations of the different women and men that desire to represent us. As we go into that phase, what do you believe, based on the status of women in the country, should be the key political focuses or the key focuses of our manifestos? What should be the major angles from which our to-be leaders are approaching this conversation?
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting and complex question. However, I'm not going to speak on behalf of all women, but I'm just going to speak. This is going to be my second time voting. And the first time I was voting, I was really excited, being a young woman. This is my first time to exercise my constitutional right to vote and all that. And I believe all the people I voted went through, which for me was not all, -1. But the majority went through, which for me was, I felt like my voice was heard, my participation mattered. And being a woman and a young woman, I was there with, my parents, and my dad was like, no one should intimidate you, just go and vote who you think is the right person. I think for women to know that, because we've seen so many women being influenced by their husbands, by their fathers, by their brothers, on who they think they should vote, like someone is thinking for you. And the first elections I participated in was during COVID. And remember, with COVID came a lot of challenges. Women were being refused to support the people they want because it was online campaigns. So women are not able to access, these online platforms to support the candidates they wanted. We saw the challenges of online campaigns, especially the presidential campaigns and all that. So I'm thinking, what are we going to do different to make sure that women fully participate in this? How are we going to support women to know that this is it is their right to choose whoever they want, even if the person they are vying for is not the same as their spouses. It is okay. So that discretion that you have and the freedom to choose as a woman should be upheld. Then the other thing, like you asked regarding what they should look out for the candidates that they really want to elect. I think as a woman, there are things we need to consider for the person you're giving votes to. Are they, the manifest, is it talking about me as a woman? How is it affecting me as a woman in regards to, for example, you said development. So which developments are key to me as a woman that are going to help me as a woman see that I enjoy my freedoms, opportunities, and what the government has to give me as services as a woman? Is the manifesto talking about maternal health? Is it looking at maternal health? Is your manifesto going to talk, because as a woman, every woman, we think, not all, but every woman will have to access services, maternal services in a hospital. Is your manifesto looking at that? Because that, I think, should be key for all women. Whoever is coming to seek for your votes, you should ask them what their stand is in regards to maternal health and medical services for women. The second thing, what financial benefits, necessities are there for me as a woman in your constituency to encourage me in developing financially or economically? What are those things you're going to look out, am I going to look out for in your manifesto in regards to road development that will aid my transportation of my farm goods to the garden? Things to do with taxes that will have to help me as a woman, to see that the farming I'm doing will put me to the next elevation. Things to do with, I've said good roads, taxes, which services am I having in the market, or which irrigation services, which things in regards to the things, because we know women are the biggest, farmers. So what are the things in your manifesto that are going to favor me in my position as a farmer who is a woman? Are you going to enable financial services in regards to me accessing loans easily? Is your manifesto going to look at that? Is your manifesto going to look at things to do with, now the trend is climate justice? What issues of climate justice is your manifesto going to look at? Because once the climate affects me as a woman, I'm not going to be able to farm. And if I'm not farming, I'm not providing for my children. If I'm not providing for my children, then my children are going to be destitute. So those are the things I think women should look out for, according to me, because me in Kampala, I'll be looking at the roads in Kampala, how am I going to be able to access? But the woman in the village is what I'm talking about. How is she going to access her farms? How is she going to be able to transport her produce? How is she able to access maternal health or medical services in that clinic deep down in the village? Your manifesto should be looking at that, not these lies that they keep telling us, I'm going to make sure you can access. I don't even know which manifestos people look at, because I look at politicians' manifestos and in my head I'm thinking, really, is this benefiting me as a woman? Is this benefiting the woman deep down in the village? So whoever is coming to vie in the political positions, women are looking at you and the things we're going to ask. And I'm pleading with women, don't look at the things they're giving at you now.
Yeah.
Look at the things that are going to benefit you in the next cycle, up to the next cycle of elections. Yeah. Is this person going to stand their ground? And their manifesto is going to speak to what affects me as a woman. So I think maternal health is really key. And then financial development is really key for women. What else?
Let me just give you some kind of small information that, even these politicians might be having their detailed, written, properly manifestos actually with them in their offices, or they can move around with them, but they will never give a chance. There will never be an opportunity for them actually even to share those manifestos with the voters. What they do is to go on a campaign trail. Maybe they have a rally and they will begin shouting, and they will never say a thing about the problem that is affecting the community. I don't know. I think voters should turn elections into a serious matter instead of shouting, because at the end of the day you come out and cry and say, no, this person is not, because you do not even have that opportunity to discuss important issues that even affect your community. What you see on a campaign rally is just making noise, dancing and so on. What is the purpose? What is the role of a campaign? Is to give someone to express himself on how he's going to add value to a community. But what happens in Uganda is just people move around dancing and so on and so forth. So I think voters should actually take this 2025-2026 general election as a serious election, to actually to put these politicians to task, surprise them, put them to task and say, what are you going to do for us in our community? What is your role as a leader? First of all, even these guys who come, they do not even understand their role. Yeah. That I'm going to, for example, someone was, I remember Katol Rama the late, said, it's not all about eating. That's why you end up actually suffering. You vote someone that the person has said,
so how will you say we are holding you accountable?
When you actually, this person told you
what he's going to do.
That he's going to, I'm going to eat. So give me your vote such that I go and eat. We cannot stand to that level.
Okay, I would like to say something also. I think Uganda's presidential elections are mainly they mainly rely on presidential elections and the candidates that are presented for presidency. And I think one of the biggest political issues this political year is a question of transition, because I feel like people no, not always. This time it's like people can kind of see it, and there are people who are talking about all these petitions to get the transition going on. Who is going to take over after the old man with a hat?
But you see, when you start saying transition and taking over, it reminds me of monarchy.
Yeah,
we are not a monarchy centered country.
Exactly.
So the issues of transition for me does not make sense. Because if a democratic country, whoever is going to inherit from you is none of our business as citizens. We don't want to know who you are recommending as the person taking over from you. Even if you're recommending a god to take over from you, as citizens of this country, we are not concerned. We want a candidate who is going to convince us that Uganda is going to be in a better place than we are right now. We need a candidate who is going to show us how they are going to work differently. So whether you're transitioning or not, by the Ugandans don't care about your transition. It's just a few, lack of a better word, botilikas, who are after, you know, I think if I support Naima, I will eat something, like you said, I will eat something. But honestly, we need to have honest conversations with ourselves. Look at ourselves in the mirrors and look at us and say, where I am today, is this where I should be? Is this where this country should be? Have we achieved this much? Yes. Can we move forward and get better than this? Yes. Who is the candidate that speaks to what we want Uganda to be tomorrow? It's not about transitioning, I think. So transition doesn't make sense. You can come and make noise, I am so-and-so's granddaughter, I'm so-and-so's, and by the Ugandan politics with having people to inherit positions. That beats my understanding. Well, a father dies, an uncle comes, a brother comes, a son comes, a daughter comes, and we vote that person. Why are we voting that person?
Like, I had the same thought train with you, but I think one of the biggest issues with the whole transition thing is because people are worried, because Uganda has never seen a peaceful handover of power from one government to the other. That is one of the biggest fears.
God for Uganda, yes. Uganda for us.
Yes, that is one of the biggest fears right now. And also people are looking at the involvement of the army and how it's going to affect everything else. Is it going to escalate? Are we going to have more rights? Are we going to have more rights?
Those are questions we're asking ourselves
or are we going to have more suppression this time? So it's a whole lot of things.
Yeah. For me, I think I still blame the middle class people or the literate persons. Yes. We have had so many universities releasing graduates, and we already have many in the field, but you never see them go to vote. The people who actually participate in the electoral processes are actually the people in the villages. And they do not have the chance, the opportunity to actually understand, to interface with the discussions that we have. So I think it is high time, the people who have gone to school, you who has gone to school, you who is on social media, you who is actually doing a lot of discussion, complaining and so on and so forth, this time go and participate in the processes of electoral process. Go and make your voice heard, because even if you make your voice, even if you shout on social media and shout on WhatsApp and so on and so forth, you are not going to do anything after the election is done. Okay. Your voice will make a lot of sense if you actually take action and exercise your right to vote.
Okay.
But, just before you come in, you were submitting us smiling like, so what is the percentage of the middle class in this country? And even if they voted, what difference is going to make?
It can make a lot of difference. It can.
Like you said, the middle class people don't care. They really don't care, and it is painful.
It's painful because people, in fact, there's where I used to work, people used to stay in their offices. People are like, hey, Faridah, you're going to vote. Oh, I'll stay at home. I don't think I have time to go and mess up myself.
It is really painful.
You know, it's so painful that you are coming from the same office, you're trying to convince people to vote, but even the people in your office are not even bothered about the voting process. And yet they understand. They really understand the importance of actually voting leaders.
You know, it's very interesting because I was on a panel of 4 last year, one of the last shows we hosted last year, on another civics based show, and the question was, how many of us have voted, how many of us had registered, and there was only one person on the panel that had actually voted, that had actually registered, that was actually informing themselves in the process. And so I asked the individuals, are you planning on voting again, like this coming cycle? And, you know, they say, find us next year. We shall give you an update. So the question still remains, of course, it's a matter of disillusionment.
I know that, but people tend to take certain things as if they are coming from Mars. Or for example, if you're looking for a child, you will put in a lot actually to get a child. First of all, you tell your husband, maybe do this, or let's go to the doctor and see what is happening. It's the same with the electoral process. If you really want this process to be free and fair, you have to participate in this process. If you really you don't have food, you will actually say, how can I get food? I don't have money and I need food. You will actually call everyone in your family to get money to buy food. Why is it that you don't put in that similar effort to make sure that we actually change the
But you see, I beg to disagree with you there. You see, with elections, if you're telling me to participate, and there are things we have seen, a lot of mismanagement of the election that people have seen, a lot of unfairness there that people have seen. And I'm not saying I am one of those people, but I think most of the people do not care because they say, even if I vote, what difference is it going to make? And you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's going to be the same person going through. It's going to be the same results. It's going to be the same violence against people. People are going to be shot at because they're expressing their campaigns are going to be tainted with violence because a certain person is not allowed to be
where
accessible.
Everyone is going wrong. That is why all of you are going wrong. Because, I'm just giving you a small incident in your marriages. Are
But
they all
marriage and
smooth?
elections are-
No. Are your
Elections and
marriages
marriages
smooth?
are different.
No. Your marriages are smooth. They are not smooth. Because there is a lot of unfairness in those families that is actually happening at that level. But people tend to actually accommodate it and try to find a solution on how to actually stay in that marriage. At the end of the day, so many women have stayed in those marriages and they have come out successfully. So it's the same with elections. Let's fight. Let's actually make everything. I don't think that the election that happened in 1986, it is the same as the one that happened in 2011. There are so many amendments and there are so many achievements that we have actually achieved. For example, there is not to give us statistics on how many women have registered.
But you see, giving me
right now,
statistics.
the women, we know
It's
that...
not.
No, we demanded for it.
Yes.
And it is actually...
I know, you give us statistics,
so,
but...
at the end of they didn't see value in actually providing those statistics. But when we demanded, we on the declaration forms, we can now see that at least 52% of women voted. 52% of women registered. And maybe these are, maybe the 40, the 1.9% are people with disability. So that information, when we continue demanding, because we don't have the powers, we don't have the guns to go and actually shoot people. We do not have guns to go and force people. But what we have is our voice. And how we use our voice also matters a lot. So for me, for example, I'll give an example in Kayunga. One of my observers said, Madam Faridah, the presiding officer here is actually ballot staffing. I said, what? I had to jump on a border. I went to that polling station where there was ballot staffing. So what I did, I called the Electoral Commission and they came in. When they came in, I also alerted security. Security also came in and they verified it was true, and that polling station, the results of that polling station were cancelled. That is my effort. I didn't have to use a gun to actually make that input.
But Ms. Faridah, I beg to, you said that they've shared statistics we've demanded. So they've shared the statistics we've demanded. What difference has it meant to the connotation of that there's free and fair election at the end of it all?
First of all, why did the women actually demand for it?
Allow me submit, because what I'm saying that people are really disoriented. It's because we've asked for this, but it is not translating to what we really want to do. You said you interjected a staffing and a cancellation. That is only
yours.
One, and it's because you created all this noise and people showed up, and yes, they verified that it was true. But how many more are being done and they're being protected while doing it?
They're saying that there is a scenario where there is a person
Are you getting it?
stuffing the ballot and they're being protected while they do it, and if you try to make noise about it, that is where you get shot.
That is the reality. That is the reality. That it happens, and everyone who has a weak mind will actually do that. But can we still watch? Can we still relax and actually say, no, we are no longer going to participate in this election because this happens?
But I think
it would be like,
I think what we need to do is bring in Luganda gamba komyawo omwoyo gw'abantu into trusting this election process. Because a lot has been done. It's just like people are saying that we have been scared because Uganda has never transitioned in a peaceful way. So how are we going to make people realize that we can transition in a peaceful way? We don't need to go to the war.
Let me just
So electoral commission and the election process has to convince, like they have a lot of work to do to convince us that it is truly a fair and free election without stuffing of ballots.
When you understand it in my perspective, you'll actually start moving in the other panya.
I want you to also understand it from my perspective.
I understood, I understood it from your perspective.
Two-way perspective.
The reason as to why I'm saying this is because the politicians are very selfish people. So you would think that if I have a free and fair process, this is what will come out. But the politician is so desperate, it is a do or die, that he wants that vote. And whether you say this, you bring the constitution and you do everything, this person is not going to understand you. So what are you going to do? And this person has presented himself to be a candidate. You who actually wants the whole process to be smooth, you're actually not presenting yourself. One, you're not even doing anything apart from lamenting on it. So just like I will not do away with the issue of marriage, that even the marriage itself, most of our husbands are very selfish. They are very selfish, so they will actually turn to suffocate a woman. It is the same with the politicians. They will suffocate you as long as you relax. But when you come out and say, you know, this is what we want, whether you give it in 2026, whether 2029, whether this is what we want a free and fair process. But how we demand it, when we demand it, we also have to put in a lot of energy. We also have to have a strategy on how to achieve it, because it's not going to come on a silver platter.
But you see, you're talking like it's the citizens who have control. But if the systems are not working to support what you want,
I'm telling you, in Gambia,
may I please submit? Okay. Thank you. So we need to be sure. What I'm talking about is we have lost trust in the system. Yes. So even if I want something and the system is not clear on what needs to be done in reprimanding the politician who is suffocating people, if there are no consequences from the system on the actions of these politicians who are very desperate to get, we are allowing the same issue, the same scenarios to happen. So we need a system. If you say we are fair and free and fair, we need the system to uphold that. Because me as a citizen, I will not even be there to count. Okay. Even the other people who are going to be there as agents will not ensure that the system, but if the systems are in place and they are working, then we don't have to even be saying there are politicians who are suffocating others.
Now let me just find this a bit of a conclusion on her submission. Very brief. That you know what, in Gambia, people had that mindset. And they knew that Jammeh said, in fact, he had announced himself as a life president and had given up because he was controlling the whole system. But he organized an election. When he organized an election, actually what happened, he thought that he was going to win that election. But at the end of that day, people manipulated that system and they made sure that they protected their vote. At the end of that day, Jammeh was thrown out. And you know, Gambia actually had what? A new president in office. Right now they have another president, and Jammeh is actually in exile. Okay. And they had the same system as ours.
Thank you so much, Faridah. Thank you so much, Naima. This has been a very spirited conversation. I love your passion for this process. As we conclude the show, Nancy, I would like to ask you one question. We have spoken about the electoral process. We've spoken about what to look out for in regards to candidates' manifestos. Very briefly, I would like to take us to the past or the present as it is. Our current women representatives. How exactly have they performed, in your opinion, as the people who had our main interests at heart? How exactly have they performed, and where have they really made progress, and where have they fallen short, so that our next leaders, or they themselves in their next period of leadership, will be able to pick up? So just very briefly, as you also summarize in your closing remarks.
Thank you so much. My humble opinion, in my opinion, I do not think that these women performed to the expectations of their people. And not because they are not aware of what their people want, but it's because they found themselves in a place where they cannot influence anything, because there is going into a place of decision-making power, but you do not set the agenda for what is important. And I think that is where many of our women political leaders find themselves. And you find that, for example, say in our parliament, there are 527 seats?
Yeah, something
557 seats, and of those seats, only 151, only 189 are occupied by women. 189 by women, and many of those seats, majority of those seats are affirmative action seats for the district quotas. And when you go into the parliament where the popular vote decides what is important or what is passed, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much they ally, those women will not. But we also have a narrative going around that more women have been presented in big political spaces, in big political offices, and I just want us to look. I just think that this is a whole tokenism going on, where they put in people from underprivileged or marginalized communities into positions to just fill them without actually pushing the agenda for those people. Because the important bills that have been in that house for so long, for example, a provision like marital rape, people they've been throwing it out every single time and it has never passed, and yet it's a genuine concern. Gender-based violence continues to increase, and now with technology, it's increasing. OGBV, people have easier access to us,
women.
Yes, to women, and the abuse is strong. It's strong, and people are very, very proud. The perpetrators are very proud of the abuses that they met. It doesn't mean that the person has to be on social media, because technological violence can also be by phone call or whatever. But just so you know, they have not done much. And the whole praising women for being in positions doesn't cut it for me, because we need meaningful representation where we work on our agendas and we actually pass them for the benefit of this country. Thank you.
Those were your closing remarks as well?
Yeah.
Okay then, Faridah, I'll let you give your brief closing remarks. Then shall finalize Naima.
I think most of these women have not worked. Reason that power is not in their hands. They are spectators just as the voters. One, when you go to parliament, they cannot stand their foot and say this is what we want as women. For example, I'm a representative in Butambala. For example, our representative in Butambala, that is Aisha Kabanda. We have so many other issues in Butambala. We don't have water. We don't have right now at least we have a road that was finally passed. But the women are yearning for so much to actually attain in this government. Two, there is money for women empowerment, but it ends up in banks. And then you see these women, the MPs coming around and assuring women that, that money is there, you go, you can access it. Actually, the money is not there. That government has put money for women. Go and get it and actually add something to your businesses. Which businesses are there? Actually, not even, the businesses are making losses, despite the fact that at a small scale. So how do you organize these women? You should not, it is not a matter of calling them at your house and then telling them about the government programs. Help them. Which economic activities are you actually engaging yourself as women in Butambala? These are the economic activities we want to engage. How prosperous are they? Maybe you can actually guide them. But at the end of the day, even their voices, you will never even speak to them. You will never present their voices. At the end of the day, you'll be there. They have said this. When actually you know for a fact that that is your own opinion. You are not representing the opinion of people you represent. At the same time, when there is money exchanging hands in parliament and you see a lot of things are happening, you will see these people running around and they will never even remember what they actually promised their constituents. They are using their personal opinion to actually stand in the house and say, I'm representing this constituency and my people back are saying this. Nonsense. You know for a fact that that is not what your people are saying. And you're just giving. Did you do consultations? Did you show us that you're doing consultations at different households to get the voice of your people? So most of these people have not worked. And they will never work because they cannot set the agenda. In fact, I want to assure people that when you stand in for something and you put your energies to it, for example, Mama Mabida, though she disappointed some people, Mama Mabida stood her foot and said, no, I'm in for environment and Mabida should not go. You see what happened. And the power, in fact, she affected the agenda. How government started to actually have another conversation regarding Mabida. Because she had to set the agenda in her own small way. You know, so that is what we want, that we can actually set the agenda, despite the fact that the guns are on us.
Yes, thank you so much, Faridah. Naima, I will let you conclude this conversation.
What was the question I get?
We were looking at
whether the women have worked. Oh, okay. So, first of all, to start with, I have a problem with even the positions that were put there for women. How do you say MP, then woman MP? So are you meaning that the MP position is reserved for only men? No. So then why do you have the woman MP? That is tokenism. So for me, I'm thinking if even the government could remove that woman MP so-called position so that it is MP and women can go and fight with men for that position.
No, but they still can, but there is also the affirmative action position.
That is it. That is tokenism. So because we gave you affirmative action and you've come through this card, then if you come, you drive the agenda of the political party you're in and not the agenda of your people. That's where the problem comes. And that is limiting women from working. They might want to work, but remember you're coming in because of affirmative action and because you're pledging to a certain party. So you end up speaking from what you have been told to speak, but not what your constituent needs you to represent. So that is a problem, and that has affected women from performing in parliament.
So you are essentially for anti-affirmative action. Do you believe we would have the same amount of women in parliament if we did away with affirmative action? Do you believe that women's voices would be had? We would even have women in parliament if we did away with affirmative action?
I believe
right
it
now
would.
We have what, about like 10, 13 members?
I believe it would. Like, I'm very controversial, by the way. I believe it would. Why? You know why we're getting women under affirmative action that are not performing? It's because these are women who, because I am pledging to Faridah's ideology, I think I should be fronted. That's what we are seeing in these campaigns. Women are not campaigning on their own. They need the backup from the political party leaders to come and help them support.
Actually, the political parties are paying their nomination fees.
You get it? So that shows the quality of women leaders we are getting into parliament. These are not people with backbone that are going to speak to women issues and agenda. We need women who can actually speak to women. Because we've been disappointed. We've seen the marriage bill being kicked out, being reviewed 1,000,000 times,
yes,
for it to be presented to that August House, and how women disappointed us and defending things that were removed, that were introduced by women who knew the women agenda and who knew issues that affected women. And we've seen women in that parliament removing those items that were protecting women and fronting benefits of men in bills. So why are you there to defend me, to speak for me, if you're not even defending policies and laws that are supposed to protect me as a woman? So the women, we have been so disappointed, by the way, very disappointed. And if I had a way, I would go to every constituent on which these women who disappointed us were standing and tell them, don't even bother giving them a vote. Let's look for greener pastures, probably people who can speak to what the needs of women are, people who can actually consult women on issues that they need to be presented before parliament, that can be deliberated on and protect women. We have seen ourselves move 4 steps back and 20 steps, sorry, 4 steps front and 20 steps back because of women leaders that are representing women. So we are so disappointed, and we hope, now that you've not been consulting, we are watching you coming back now, pretending to be consulting because you want our votes. Trust me, the women have become smarter. Yeah. This time, I am going to be in these campaign trails with my constituent. I am going to ask questions that are very uncomfortable. And we need answers to whoever is coming to campaign in our constituents. So women should do that.
Should on social media ask those important questions if you cannot actually be on the campaign.
Because we need women who can really work.
Thank you so
I
much,
so
ladies.
submit.
This has been, when I say Faridas, I mean Faridas, the passion, the zeal in this room, the information. I have been thoroughly informed. I do not know, 10th February is the day we should be looking at to get ourselves registered, to have ourselves updated in the system if we so wish. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of yet another Tuesday afternoon show. I thank you for joining us until the very end. It is our duty as citizens to look to the electoral process, to actively partake in the electoral process, and to ensure that it is actually free and fair, to take the actual steps. So first and foremost, register if you're not registered. Update your area of your voting area if you have not updated it and if you're not compatible with where you're voting. And then at the end of it all, line up, cast your vote, and hope for the best. At the very least, that is the very least we can do as citizens, hoping for the best in this country. And inform yourselves, have a bit more passion and zeal for this particular conversation. I thank you. My name is Turiho Danita. I have been your host this afternoon. Have a good day.